So like I said, we're going to be doing some rotations around a center point, and you get to choose not only the shape or the design, but you also get to choose that center point. We can change it to be anywhere inside of our drawing. So the very first thing we're going to look at is adding a shape. We have not used the shape tool yet, but it is located underneath the T for type, the text type tool. Underneath that, you'll see rectangle tool. And if I click and hold on rectangle, you'll see that I have a number of different shapes I can use. Rounded rectangles, ellipses, polygons, stars. I haven't used the flare tool yet, so I don't know what that does. But I've used the other ones extensively. The star tool is what I'm going to use here as my example one. So if I click on here and I draw a star, I can put it out there. I can resize it, make it whatever size I want. And then also, if you hold the shift key, that allows you to keep it locked to a specific rotation. It's going to have the main point pointing up in the air, just like that. So then if I move out here so I can see what I'm working with, I'm going to hit the direct selection tool. I'm going to drag this shape over here in the middle a little bit. And then again, over on our tool bar on the left-hand side, we're going to look down below the shape tool we just used, and you should see one that has an arrow that kind of rolls around to the left, and that is called the rotate tool. And when I click on that tool, you'll see that a target appears in the center of your shape, and that is your current rotation point. So if I was to rotate this star using the selection tool, I could rotate it and it would rotate around this location. But because I have the ability to change this, I could drag this, I could spin it around in circles, and it's going around that point right there. If I click on a different anchor point, or if I click anywhere else, now it's rotating around that anchor point, or that center point, that rotation point for the shape. So I am able to move the rotation point to any location inside here. But what I'd like you to do is go directly below your star someplace. And you're going to hit Option and then click. And watch what happens when I do that. It pulls up a menu and it asks me what degrees do I want to rotate this at. And so my center point is down below my star currently. And it's asking me the angle that I want to spin this at. All right, so we have 360 degrees in a circle, and if I want this thing to rotate evenly, it has to, so it rotates, if I want this thing to rotate evenly so that we have an even number and it returns back up to this original point, I have to have a number in my angle that's divisible by 360 has to be divisible easily and evenly by this number. So I'm going to choose 60 degrees, which will give me 6 different stars going around. And then I'm going to hit copy. And you'll notice that I go from one star here, and I have another star that's just off to the side. And then if I do a Command D, it's going to repeat this all the way around until I get my 6 stars. Now that we've done one of these, we don't just have to do a shape and use the shape tool. We can draw using the pen tool and draw anything we want on here. So if I draw something like this, I'm going to do something like a leaf almost. And then I use my selection tool to make sure I select the whole thing. And then rotate, and I'm going to rotate around the bottom of this leaf. And it's going to ask me, I'm going to do every 12 degrees, copy, and if I hit Command D, it's going to do a whole bunch of them right around that bottom point. And you can see that each one of these leaves, as I go over top of them, they're all lighting up. And if I use my selection tool and I select all of them, you can see all the patterns, all the paths that are hiding behind some of the other the other paths. So there are every single one of these paths is being hidden by the fill except for the very top one. So if I turn my fill off, and to turn fill off, you click on the color there, and then there's a red slash. And the red slash is what allows us to turn off any fill. And what you're going to notice is that all of a sudden, all of the black lines are now visible on my pattern here. But each one of these, if I was to click on one, I'm still only able to click on each individual flower. I could, or each of these different things. And because of that, when I'm clicking on these, I could color them each individually. But if I do two that are next to each other, let's see, I color this one with a green, it's going to cover up part of the blue. And so maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want it so I can color each one of these little parts. So if I come back like this, I want to make sure that I have the entire object selected. And we're going to use a different set of properties here. If we go to Window and down to the Pathfinder. Pathfinder gives us the ability to separate or divide each time it crosses, a path crosses another path. It's going to divide it into a separate entity. So when I have this Pathfinder open and I click on the left one, you'll see it's called divide. When I click on that, it's going to create a new anchor point every single place it finds a cross. Every place that one path crosses another one, it's going to have another anchor point. Lots of them, right? So now that I have that selected and I have it, the Pathfinder has been divided, now I can right click or two finger click and I can ungroup them. That way everything is separated. I ungroup it, and now every single one of these sections is a different piece of a shape. So every single one of these paths makes a different shape. So I could go through now and I could click on all the outside parts of a leaf here.
Are you calling them all right now? Like if you click the fill the one you're clicking on?
And so as I'm selecting these, it's going to go through. So yeah, and select this one. Make sure I get them all selected all the way around here. And now I should have all the outside points selected. Then I can choose one fill color. Maybe this pink right here. And it should highlight all the outside ones. Then I could come through and I could click on the new shapes on the inside and hold down Shift and click on each one of these shapes on the inside. And you'll notice that if I accidentally miss one, it still looks like I have everything selected. However, when I try to use my fill color and to color this, I'm going to notice that right away, whoops, I missed one right here. So I click on it, change it to the same fill color as everything else, and I can continue. If your stroke, when you're drawing these, if your stroke is too thick, you can always lower your stroke down to a half stroke, which will do a lighter line around there. You can zoom in. The center of this looks like a flower now. And I can continue this process. So using the rotation tool, I can make any kind of a shape. Using the Pathfinder tool, I can separate the paths from each other. I have to ungroup it. You see, even if I zoom in here farther, there are more shapes that I could select. Zoomed way in now. Whoa, I'm all over the place. Let's zoom back out. We want these guys to be filled in with a green. There we go. So I have the ability to do this. I could also, using the pen tool, I could make any shape I want. If I just want to have something like that, connect the shape. Let's put this shape I just created. Let's put that on a new layer so I can close everything else. Paste this one on a new layer. And if I use the rotation point, I can again choose wherever I'd like it to rotate from. I can copy it. I can repeat it multiple times around there. And if I didn't like the color that I have chosen, I could select everything and change the fill color all at once. Go to properties, change my fill, turn it off maybe. Now I have all these different shapes. I could use the Pathfinder tool to separate every single one of those. You'll notice that they all have their own individual anchors at every cross. I can right click or two finger click and ungroup. And now each one of these shapes is a separate entity. Gives us the ability to do a lot of cool stuff. So that's kind of the process for creating a rotation around a set point. You can do this for any kind of a shape. I had on one of my examples, like the BP logo, the BP flower logo is a rotation tool. So you could, using the rotation style tool, to rotate things around a center point. Not unsimilar to the flower that I just created. But that's kind of the process, what we're looking at today. If you have any questions, let me know.